The sound of metal hitting the concrete echoed through the empty prison hallway. It was loud, sharp, and terrifying. Christopher Scarver stood there, breathing hard, holding a long steel bar he had taken from the prison gym. In front of him was Jeffrey Dahmer, the most hated inmate in the entire prison system. Dahmer looked up with a strange, calm smile on his face, as if he already knew what was coming and didn't care. The moment felt frozen, like time had stopped inside Columbia Correctional Institution on that cold November morning in 1994. Scarver took one slow step forward. Dahmer didn't run. He didn't scream. He didn't even defend himself. He just stared at Scarver with the look that made everything feel darker. Nobody else was there. No guards watching. No one to stop what was about to happen. And for the first time since he entered prison, Jeffrey Dahmer looked almost human, almost scared, almost sorry. Scarver gripped the metal bar tighter. His heart was racing, and he could feel his anger boiling inside him. He had been waiting for this moment, and deep down, he believed it wasn't an accident that the three of them had been left alone together. It felt like someone wanted this to happen, but Scarver didn't care. He only cared about what he had come to do. He lifted the metal bar high into the air.
Then, everything went silent. Before Scarver brought the bar down, the scene stops here. Because to understand how they reached this deadly moment, we need to go back, way back, all the way to the beginning. Months before the murder, Christopher Scarver was already struggling. He didn't trust people easily. He believed someone was watching him. Someone was trying to control him. And the voices in his mind only made things worse. He was already serving a life sentence for a murder he committed years earlier. But something about prison changed him even more. The hallways felt darker. The guards felt colder. And the inmates, many of them hated him because they feared his unpredictable behavior. But there was one inmate almost everyone hated even more: Jeffrey Dahmer. Dahmer had been in the prison for a short time, but his presence created chaos. Inmates wanted him gone. They hated what he did on the outside. They hated how he acted on the inside. Dahmer joked about his crimes. He played with his food in disturbing ways. Sometimes he made body-shaped figures out of leftover meals and smeared ketchup on them. Many inmates said he mocked them every day. And Scarver noticed all of it.
Scarver would watch Dahmer from across the room, trying to understand what kind of person could do the things he had done. But instead of fear, Scarver felt something else growing inside him. A pressure. A mission. Almost like he believed he was chosen to stop Dahmer from continuing to hurt people, emotionally and spiritually. Then came the morning of November 28th, 1994. Scarver, Dahmer, and another inmate named Jesse Anderson were assigned to clean the prison gym. No guard stayed with them, no officer watched the hallway, no cameras were pointed in their direction. It was strange, very strange. Even Scarver felt something wasn't normal. As they cleaned, Dahmer started making a joke, a dark one, a cruel one. Scarver stared at him and felt the anger rise again. He walked away from the two men and wiped sweat from his forehead. That's when he saw it. A metal bar lying by the weights. Heavy. Solid. Easy to hold. Scarver picked it up and made a decision that would change his life forever. He turned around and walked slowly toward Dahmer and Anderson, the bar hidden at his side. His pulse climbed. His breathing got louder. Dahmer looked up and smiled that same strange smile. Scarver stepped closer, and then everything exploded into violence. But what exactly happened in that locked gym room? Who struck first? And why did Scarver say later that he felt guided by something he could not explain? The truth behind what Scarver did next is even darker than most people know.
The metal bar hit the floor with a hard clang as Christopher Scarver tightened his grip and stepped deeper into the gym. The air felt thick, almost heavy, like the room itself knew something terrible was about to happen. Jeffrey Dahmer and Jesse Anderson were standing near a corner, pretending to clean, but Scarver could feel their eyes on him. He didn't trust either of them, and he felt something dark pull him forward, step by step. Before he struck anyone, Scarver paused. His mind raced. He heard a voice, quiet, almost like a whisper inside his head, telling him this moment was meant to happen. He didn't know if it was his own thoughts or something else, but the feeling was strong, stronger than anything he had felt before. It pushed him forward. Dahmer turned around slowly. His smile was gone now. His face looked confused, even worried, as Scarver walked closer with the metal bar hanging at his side. For the first time, there was fear in Dahmer's eyes. And that fear made Scarver's anger even hotter. But to understand why Scarver reached this breaking point, we have to look at the days leading up to the murder. Inside Columbia Correctional Institution, Dahmer had become a walking target. He was separated at first, kept away from most inmates for safety, but eventually, the prison moved him into general population.
Inmates thought it was a bad idea. Guards thought so too. But someone made the choice anyway. And Dahmer didn't help himself. Instead of keeping quiet, he started making jokes, dark jokes. He shaped his food into fake body parts. He squirted ketchup on him to mimic blood. Some guards laughed, some ignored him. But the inmates did not. They saw it as disrespect. They saw it as cruel. And Scarver saw it as evil. One morning in the cafeteria, Dahmer pushed a ketchup-covered food tray toward an inmate and said, "Look familiar?" The inmate yelled at him. Many others complained. Scarver watched from a distance, feeling something building inside him, something dangerous. Then Scarver had his own encounter. He went to the chapel area to pray, trying to quiet the storm in his mind. But Dahmer walked by and muttered something under his breath that Scarver took as a mockery of his beliefs. Anderson, the other inmate assigned to the gym that day, laughed. Scarver didn't say anything out loud, but that moment planted a thought deep inside him, a thought he couldn't shake.
So when the three of them were told to clean the gym with no guard watching, Scarver felt like it wasn't random, not an accident, not a mistake. It felt set up. Scarver looked around the large gym again. No cameras, no officers, no other inmates, just silence. He turned to Dahmer and asked, "Did you do those things they say you did?" Dahmer didn't deny it. He just stared. Then Scarver asked Anderson the same question about his own crime. Anderson lied. Scarver knew it. Something inside him snapped. He stepped forward, raising the metal bar. Dahmer backed up, his hands lifting slightly like he wanted to shield himself, but it was too late. Scarver swung the bar hard. The sound echoed through the gym, bouncing off the concrete walls. Dahmer fell to the floor, crawling, trying to escape, but Scarver followed, striking again and again as years of anger and confusion exploded out of him. Then he turned to Anderson. Anderson tried to run, but the door was locked. Scarver cornered him, hitting him until he dropped. The room was filled with Scarver's heavy breathing and the loud ringing in his own ears. When he finally stopped, the gym was silent again. Scarver walked to the doorway and pressed his hands against the glass window, waiting. He didn't run, he didn't hide. He stood still, like someone who believed he had just completed a mission. When the guards arrived, they froze in shock. Scarver didn't resist. He simply said, "God told me to do it." But what Scarver revealed later, when he finally spoke about that morning, raised even more questions about whether the attack was planned and who might have wanted Dahmer dead. The truth he revealed next would change everything.
The aftermath of the attack was chaos. Guards rushed into the gym, yelling orders, their faces pale with shock. Blood stained the concrete floor. Jeffrey Dahmer was barely moving, his body bruised and battered. Jesse Anderson lay in another corner, also severely beaten. The sounds of sirens and shouting filled the hallway as Scarver stood silently, holding the metal bar, his chest heaving, his eyes wide but calm. He didn't cry.
He didn't plead. He simply waited, as if he had already made peace with what had just happened. Paramedics arrived, carefully lifting Dahmer and Anderson onto stretchers. Dahmer was unconscious, barely clinging to life. Anderson's condition was critical. Both were rushed to the prison medical unit, but for Dahmer, the injuries were too severe. He wouldn't survive. The news spread quickly through the prison. Jeffrey Dahmer, the infamous serial killer, had been murdered inside his own cell block. Inmates whispered in hallways, some in shock, some in satisfaction. Some feared Scarver, some admired him. But Christopher Scarver's story didn't end there. He was immediately restrained and taken into solitary confinement. He didn't resist, didn't cry, didn't speak much. He knew what he had done, and in his mind, it was justice. He later explained to investigators that the voices in his head had guided him, that he believed Dahmer's presence was corrupting and needed to be stopped. Psychologists later examined Scarver, calling his behavior a mix of psychosis and moral conviction, a combination that left many struggling to understand how a man could commit such a violent act, yet feel it was righteous.
In the prison population, fear spread fast. Inmates began to whisper about Scarver's intentions, wondering if others would follow his lead. Guards tightened security. Cameras were reviewed. Rules changed overnight. No inmate would ever again be left unsupervised in the gym. Scarver's actions forced the prison system to face its weaknesses and acknowledge how dangerous it could be when high-risk inmates were left together without supervision. Outside the prison walls, the media exploded. Headlines ran for days. Inside the prison murder of Jeffrey Dahmer. Christopher Scarver kills serial killer. Prison violence reaches new heights. Families of the victims from Dahmer's crimes felt a strange mix of relief and horror. Some said justice had been served in a brutal, unexpected way. Others mourned the continuing cycle of violence. Scarver became a figure of fascination and fear. Interviewers, journalists, and documentary filmmakers all tried to reach him, eager to uncover the truth behind his actions. Years later, Scarver spoke out in interviews, explaining what he felt the day of the attack. He claimed he didn't feel hatred as much as a strange sense of purpose. He described the gym, the echo of the metal bar, the expressions on Dahmer's and Anderson's faces, and the overwhelming sense that something had been set in motion that day. His account raised questions about morality, justice, and the thin line between sanity and madness.
Jeffrey Dahmer's murder inside Columbia Correctional Institution became one of the most notorious prison killings in U.S. history. It exposed weaknesses in prison management, the dangers of housing violent criminals together, and the complex psychology of those living behind bars. Scarver's story continues to fascinate and terrify, reminding everyone that even inside a locked facility, consequences of unchecked anger, unresolved trauma, and moral conviction can lead to deadly results. And the question that still lingers today, was Scarver acting purely on his own judgment, or was there something larger at play inside the walls of Columbia Correctional Institution that day? The answer remains a chilling mystery, one that keeps people watching and questioning the darkness lurking inside prisons. The story of Jeffrey Dahmer's final moments is not just about murder. It is about fear, anger, and the hidden dangers inside the walls meant to contain society's most dangerous.